My name is Haley. The night my world cracked did not begin with slammed doors or raised voices. It began with a whisper. It was supposed to be perfect. Derek and I had just returned from our honeymoon a few weeks earlier. The glow of newlywed still clung to us, at least for the world to see. Everyone wanted to celebrate, so we opened our home for a dinner party. Candles flickered on the dining table, glasses clinked, and laughter floated through the house. I floated too, smiling, serving, making sure every guest felt welcome. I wanted the night to be ours, a fresh chapter, a memory that would last. I carried plates into the kitchen, humming softly, the sounds of chatter behind me. And then I heard it. A voice. Female. Soft, sharp, deliberate. "He was always mine," she whispered. The words pierced the air like a needle popping glass. My body froze, one hand gripping a wine glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. My ears burned, my breath caught. Slowly, carefully, I shifted closer to the doorway, keeping myself hidden. Vanessa. I knew that voice. She was Derek's coworker, invited because, in his words, she's practically family at the office. I had never felt comfortable around her. Too many lingering touches on his arm. Too much warmth in her smile when she looked at him. Too much eagerness in her laugh when he spoke. But Derek had waved off my concerns every time. "She's harmless, Haley. Don't be paranoid." From the doorway I saw her. Vanessa's head leaned dangerously close to Derek's ear, her lips brushing near his skin. "My husband. My brand new husband." Derek chuckled, low and uneasy. "Vanessa, not here," he murmured. His tone wasn't angry, not firm. It was nervous. Guilty. My chest tightened until I thought I might collapse. The room swam before my eyes, but I forced myself still. Every instinct screamed to rush in, to demand, to claw the smug smile off her face. But I didn't. Instead, I set the glass down on the counter, smoothed my dress, and slipped silently into the hallway. I leaned against the wall, my heart hammering against my ribs. The voices from the dining room carried on, laughter and clinking silverware. But for me the night had shifted. The glow of candles felt sinister now, shadows stretching long across the walls. This wasn't suspicion. This wasn't paranoia. This was betrayal hiding in plain sight. When I re-entered the room, I wore a smile. I poured wine, laughed at jokes, touched Derek's shoulder, kissed his cheek when someone toasted to the happy couple. No one noticed the storm inside me. No one saw that every gesture, every nod was deliberate camouflage. At the end of the night, after the guests trickled out and the last door clicked shut, Derek wrapped his arms around me. His smile was soft, his voice smooth. "See? Tonight was a success. Everyone adores you." I smiled back faintly, though my throat was tight. His shirt smelled faintly of perfume. Floral, cloying, and not mine. Later he fell asleep easily, his breathing steady. I lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling. The whisper replayed again and again, each repetition cutting deeper. He was always mine. I rose quietly, careful not to wake him, and padded into the living room. The house was silent now, the remnants of the evening lingering. Half-burned candles, wine-stained glasses, the ghost of laughter. I walked to the bookshelf and pulled out the wedding album. I sat on the couch, flipping it open under the lamplight. The glossy pages glowed. Me in white, Derek smiling, vows spoken. Rings exchanged, promises bound into eternity. Proof. Proof that he had chosen me, not her. Proof that our life belonged to us, not to whispers in the dark. But as I turned the pages, something shifted in me. Proof wasn't only comfort. Proof was power. Proof could be weaponized. I traced my fingers over a photo of us standing at the altar, family and friends smiling behind us. A vow frozen in time. My pulse steadied. My vision cleared. If Vanessa wanted to whisper lies in corners, I would hand her the truth directly. I would give her the wedding album itself, page by page, vow by vow, undeniable proof that Derek hadn't married her. He had married me. And I wouldn't do it privately. I would do it in a way that no one could ignore. Because Derek had chosen me in front of everyone. And soon everyone would remember it. The morning after the dinner party, I moved through the kitchen in silence, replaying Vanessa's whisper in my head. Derek hummed cheerfully, frying eggs as though the night before had been nothing but a success. He kissed the back of my neck and said, "Everyone loved you. Vanessa even told me you make it look effortless." I stiffened at her name. He didn't notice. She's harmless, he added, his smile too casual. You worry too much. I forced a nod, biting back the truth that wanted to leap from my throat. I wasn't imagining things. I had heard her. I had seen the way his eyes darted when she leaned in too close. But Derek was already building the story he wanted me to believe. That day I watched him more closely. He left for work with his usual confidence, adjusting his tie in the mirror before kissing my cheek. I stood at the window watching his car pull away. A thought hit me like cold water. He was probably driving straight to her. I shook it off, but unease followed me everywhere. I opened my phone and scrolled through his social media. His page was filled with smiles, polished updates, posts about gratitude and family. But a photo stopped me cold. It was from the night before, our dinner party. Vanessa had posted it. Derek sat at the table, her hand barely visible on the edge of the frame, resting on his chair. The caption, "He shines wherever he goes." My stomach clenched. Subtle but deliberate. That evening Derek came home late. He said traffic had been brutal, but I noticed the faint scent of perfume again, floral and too sweet, clinging to his jacket. Rough day. I asked, my voice calm. He loosened his tie, sighing dramatically. Endless meetings. You know how it is. He dropped his briefcase by the door, his eyes avoiding mine. Later, when he showered, I checked his jacket pocket. A folded receipt. My hand shook as I opened it. A wine bar receipt. 2 glasses of Merlot. 1 appetizer. Timestamped at 6:42 p.m. The exact time he told me he was still at the office. I photographed it with my phone, sliding the receipt back before he returned. That night, as he lay beside me scrolling through his phone, I turned my back to him. My mind was no longer clouded by doubt. I had proof. Small but enough to ignite the fire. The next day brought more cracks. Derek texted me in the afternoon. Running late again. Don't wait up. I read the words twice, then opened Vanessa's social media. There she was, posting a photo of a cocktail captioned, "Celebrating the best company." The timestamp matched his message. My hands trembled, not from fear but from clarity. When Derek came home near midnight, he slipped into bed, kissed my shoulder and whispered, "You're too tense, Haley. You have to trust me." I stared at the ceiling, my lips pressed shut. Trust? He was eroding it with every lie, every laugh, every whisper he thought I couldn't hear. I rose the next morning before him, walking into the living room. The wedding album still sat on the coffee table, exactly where I had left it. I opened it again, staring at our vows frozen on glossy pages. This was the truth he wanted to bury. He had promised me forever in front of everyone. And if Vanessa wanted to rewrite the story, I would remind her. And him, who the world had seen him marry. I closed the album, my resolve hardening. This was no longer suspicion. This was betrayal unfolding in real time. And I would not let whispers erase my vows. The day I found the receipt from the wine bar, something in me hardened. It was no longer about suspicion, no longer about whispers in the dark. It was about proof, clear, undeniable proof that Derek was betraying me. If Vanessa wanted to pretend he was hers, then I would gather every scrap of evidence that showed the truth. He had married me, and he was breaking those vows. I began with a notebook. On the cover, in thick black ink, I wrote a single word, evidence. On the first page, I copied the details from the wine bar receipt, time, date, items purchased. I glued a photo of it next to my notes. Below it, I pasted a screenshot of Vanessa's post from the same evening. Her cocktail glass raised high with the caption about celebrating the best company. Side by side, they told a story. The next entry came quickly. Derek claimed he was working late again. His voice tired on the phone. But when I checked Vanessa's profile, there she was, posting a blurry picture of a dessert with the caption, "Sweet endings with sweet company." My stomach clenched, but my hands moved steadily. I took a screenshot, printed it, and slid it into the notebook. Over the next 2 weeks, the notebook grew. Receipts I pulled from Derek's jacket pockets, screenshots of posts Vanessa couldn't resist sharing, even a few overheard comments from colleagues at gatherings. One coworker joked, "Derek's practically living at the wine bar these days." I wrote it down word for word. Then came the moment that shifted everything. It was a Tuesday evening. Derek had left early, saying he had a late client meeting. My instincts screamed otherwise. I opened the location-sharing app we had installed months earlier. Back when trust was a word that still meant something. I had nearly forgotten about it. Now the blinking red dot told me exactly where he was. Not at the office. At Vanessa's apartment complex. My breath hitched, but my body moved on autopilot. I grabbed my keys, drove slowly, and parked 2 blocks away. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might break through my ribs, but my hands were steady when I lifted my phone. From my car, I saw his vehicle in the lot. Minutes later, the front door opened. Vanessa stepped out onto the balcony, laughing into the night. Seconds later, Derek appeared, his hand brushing against hers as he followed. They leaned close, too close, their silhouettes framed by the glow of her living room. I snapped photo after photo, each click like a blade cutting through denial. Back home, I slid the prints into the notebook. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was visible, undeniable. I labeled the section Vanessa's apartment and underlined it twice. But I didn't stop there. The next morning, when Derek showered, I slipped into his office bag. A small jewelry box hid in the side pocket. My throat closed, my vision blurred, but I forced my fingers to open it. Inside lay a delicate silver bracelet, one I had never seen before. Not for me. I photographed it quickly before tucking it back. That evening he gave me flowers, cheap supermarket roses. He never mentioned the bracelet. In the notebook I added another entry. Bracelet purchased, hidden in work bag. Gift not for Haley. I left space next to it, certain I would soon confirm who wore it. Over days the notebook thickened. The pages smelled of ink and paper, but to me they smelled of truth. Every lie Derek spoke, every whisper Vanessa breathed, I turned into ink that could not be erased. One Saturday, while Derek claimed he was playing golf with friends, I drove past the course. His car wasn't there. I checked the app. The red dot glowed on a map far from the green fields. At a hotel. I drove there, heart cold, and parked across the street. Through the glass doors I saw him. Derek at the front desk, Vanessa beside him, laughing as he signed the register. I waited, watched, and when they disappeared into the elevator I took another photo. Back home, I glued the hotel receipt image I later pulled from our bank statement into the notebook. The evidence grew heavier, but with each page I felt lighter. I realized then I wasn't just documenting betrayal. I was building my weapon. One day that notebook would speak louder than any whisper Vanessa could breathe. Louder than any excuse Derek could invent. And I knew exactly how I would use it. By the time the notebook was thick with screenshots, receipts, and photographs, I realized I could not carry its weight alone anymore. Proof was powerful, but in silence it became a secret. I needed voices, people who would stand beside me when the moment of truth came. If Derek tried to twist my story the way he always twisted my questions, there would be others to echo what I knew. The first person I turned to was Claire, my best friend since college. She had seen me through heartbreaks before, but she had also been there when I first fell in love with Derek. She had stood beside me on my wedding day, fixing my veil before I walked down the aisle. If anyone would understand the depth of my betrayal, it was her. We met at a quiet cafe on a rainy afternoon. I carried the notebook in my bag, its weight like a stone pulling at my shoulder. Claire slid into the booth across from me, her smile warm but her eyes searching. "Haley, you sounded serious on the phone. What's going on?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I placed the notebook on the table and pushed it toward her. She opened it cautiously, flipping through the first few pages. Her face shifted slowly, from confusion to shock, from shock to anger. Her fingers lingered on the photographs of Derek outside Vanessa's apartment, the receipts from wine bars and hotels, the screenshot of Vanessa's posts. When she finally closed it, her hands trembled. "Haley," she whispered. This is undeniable. He's been living a second life. And she's flaunting it." I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "And he called me paranoid. He told me I was imagining things." Her eyes darkened. "You're not imagining. You're meticulous. You've built something no one can argue with. When the time comes, I'll be there. Say the word, and I'll stand beside you." Her loyalty wrapped around me like armor. The second person I confided in was my sister, Rachel. She had always been protective, though sometimes a little skeptical. That night, I invited her to dinner at my apartment. Derek claimed he had another late meeting, which gave me the perfect opportunity. After we ate, I poured us wine and carried the notebook into the living room. Rachel frowned as I set it down, sensing the weight of what was coming. "Read," I told her softly. She flipped page after page in silence. When she reached the photograph of Derek and Vanessa walking into the hotel lobby, her lips pressed into a thin line. By the time she closed the notebook, her eyes were wet but fierce. "I always thought something was off," she admitted. "The late nights, the way he brushed off your questions. But I didn't want to interfere. Haley, you can't face this alone. Tell me what to do." I exhaled, relief washing through me. "Keep this safe. If something happens, if he tries to twist it, this book has to survive. It's the truth." Rachel hugged me tightly. "It'll be safe with me. And when you're ready, I'll help you burn them both down." Still, I knew friendship and family weren't enough. If I wanted more than a dramatic confrontation, I needed strategy. I needed law. That's when I made an appointment with Evelyn Carter, a lawyer recommended by a coworker. Her office was sleek, lined with glass and chrome. She listened as I explained, her expression unreadable but sharp. When I laid the notebook before her and walked her through the evidence, she didn't flinch. She took notes, nodding at each page. When she finished, she looked me straight in the eye. "Haley, you already have more than enough to end this marriage legally and walk away with restitution. Infidelity, financial misconduct, it's all here. But you want more than divorce, don't you?" I nodded. "I want the truth to be undeniable. Not just in court. In front of everyone." Evelyn leaned back, tapping her pen. "Then timing will be everything. You need a stage where he feels most untouchable, where the fall will cut deepest." I thought for a long moment before answering. "The company gala. He's supposed to give a speech next month. Donors, colleagues, family, it's his kingdom." Her eyes gleamed. "Then that's where you strike. I'll prepare the paperwork so it's ready to file the moment you expose him. By the next morning, he'll have nothing left to stand on." When I left her office, the evening air felt lighter. For the first time, I wasn't alone. Claire, Rachel, Evelyn, my circle of allies. My notebook was no longer just mine to carry. Its truth had witnesses now. Its power was shared. That night, Derek came home humming, kissed my cheek and said, "We should start thinking about what we'll wear to the gala. It's going to be the biggest night of my year." I smiled faintly, my voice steady. "Yes," I whispered. "Unforgettable." He didn't hear the steel in my tone. Once I had allies standing beside me, the storm inside me turned into something sharp, something focused. Pain began to transform into purpose. Derek thought he was untouchable, but I was already designing the night where his mask would finally fall. The gala was his idea of heaven. He had been bragging about it for weeks, telling me how important it was for his career, how donors and executives would be there, how he would shine under the chandeliers. He loved the spotlight, and I decided that was exactly where the truth would catch him. I gathered Claire and Rachel one Saturday afternoon at my apartment. Evelyn joined us after work, carrying her briefcase. On the table lay the notebook of evidence and, next to it, the wedding album. The two books looked almost symbolic. One holding the lies, the other holding the truth. "We need precision," Evelyn said, adjusting her glasses. "This isn't just about catching him in a lie. It's about destroying his ability to deny it." Claire leaned forward. "We can't let it be chaotic. We have to make it clean. Sharp. Something no one can spin." Rachel tapped the wedding album. "This is the weapon." She whispered he was hers. But page after page proves otherwise. "He stood at the altar with you, Haley. Everyone saw it. If you hand this to her in front of the whole room, she can't hide." I nodded slowly. "Exactly. The album isn't just memories. It's proof of vows spoken in front of family, friends, God. Proof that she was always on the outside, no matter what he promised her in secret." So we built the plan. Step 1, the timing. I would wait until Derek was at the peak of his performance mid-speech, when every eye was on him. He would be glowing, confident, certain he had everyone's admiration. That was when the truth would slice deepest. Step 2, the delivery. I would rise from the audience, the wedding album in my hands. No shouting, no hysteria. Just calm, deliberate motion. I would walk straight to Vanessa because she was always the one whispering, always the one pretending. And I would hand her the album. Page by page, she would hold the truth she had tried to erase. Step 3: the evidence. Claire would be stationed at the side with the notebook and projector. If Derek tried to deny anything, she would launch the slideshow we had prepared. Photos of receipts, screenshots, even the image of him and Vanessa at the hotel. Rachel would circulate printed copies to the nearest tables, a failsafe in case the projector failed. Step 4: the legal strike. Evelyn would file the divorce papers the very next morning. The donors and colleagues would wake to headlines of his betrayal, the paperwork already in motion. By the time Derek tried to gather himself, it would be too late. We practiced the script like a rehearsal. Claire tested the slideshow on her laptop. Rachel checked the envelopes of printed proof. Evelyn walked me through what to say if Derek tried to silence me. Stay calm. The calmer you are, the more insane he'll look when he tries to fight back. At night, I rehearsed in front of the mirror. I held the wedding album in my hands and whispered the words. She whispered that he was hers. But these pages proved the truth. He stood with me. He vowed to me. He promised forever to me. The words steadied me. The photos of us at the altar, of rings sliding onto fingers, became more than memories. They became ammunition. The week before the gala, Derek beamed as he tried on his tuxedo. "This will be the biggest night of my year," he said, spinning in front of the mirror. "The spotlight will be on me." I smiled faintly, my voice even. "Yes, it will." He didn't hear the steel behind the words. That night, I placed the wedding album back into its protective cover and slid it into my bag. The notebook of evidence followed. Together they felt like fire and ice, one searing with the truth of vows, the other freezing with the weight of betrayal. The stage was set. The allies were ready. The plan was flawless. All that remained was the night itself. The night of the gala glittered like a stage already set for betrayal. From the moment I stepped out of the car, the city lights gleamed against the glass walls of the hotel, and I knew there would be no turning back. My emerald dress brushed the marble floor. My clutch clutched tight against my side. Inside it rested the wedding album, heavy with vows that Derek had broken. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers. Waiters floated between tables with silver trays. Laughter spilled like champagne, and cameras flashed as donors posed for photographs. Derek thrived in this world. He stood at the center, his tuxedo perfectly tailored, his smile dazzling, his voice warm and confident. To anyone else, he was a man of success, admired and untouchable. To me, he was already a ghost, his empire built on lies about to crumble. When he spotted me, his grin widened. He placed a hand on my waist, leaning close to whisper, "Perfect. You look perfect. Tonight will shine." I smiled faintly. Not we. Only me. I scanned the room, checking my allies. Claire stood near the back with her laptop hidden in a sleek folio. Rachel sat 2 tables from the front, her clutch stuffed with printed packets. Evelyn lingered by the side doors, her phone ready to send the papers once the proof was public. Michael, my brother, who had agreed to be our silent guard, stood by the projector, watching closely. We were ready. The evening unfolded slowly. Toasts were raised, donors spoke, the host praised the foundation's success. My pulse thudded in rhythm with every speech. I brushed my fingers across the edge of the album inside my clutch. Soon it would leave my hands and strike like a blade. Finally, the announcer's voice rose above the chatter. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome tonight's keynote speaker, Derek Miller." Applause thundered as Derek strode confidently to the podium. He adjusted the microphone, his smile glowing under the chandeliers. His voice filled the room with practiced ease. He spoke of dedication, sacrifice, and vision. The audience leaned in, charmed, admiring. I glanced at Claire. She nodded, ready. Rachel slid her hand onto her clutch. Evelyn's eyes locked on me, steady and calm. Then the first complication hit. The projector flickered once, then again before going black. The screen behind Derek dimmed to nothing. Michael crouched, checking cables, but shook his head with tight lips. Sabotage? Or just bad luck? It didn't matter. Our flawless slideshow, our clear, undeniable chain of proof was gone. My throat tightened, but I stayed seated. We had backups. Rachel's packets. My album. We weren't broken, only shaken. But then I saw her. Vanessa. She swept into the room like she owned it, dressed in scarlet that clung to her frame. her hair falling in perfect waves. She moved deliberately, her heels striking the floor with confidence. She didn't sit in the back where she might fade. She slid boldly into a seat in the fourth row, directly facing Derek. My stomach twisted. She wasn't supposed to be here. Derek's eyes flicked toward her mid-sentence, and I saw it. The slight falter, the nervous spark, the silent communication between them. His voice rose louder, steadier, as though speaking to her instead of the room. The whispers began immediately. Guests near the front exchanged glances. A woman leaned to her companion, murmuring, "Who is she?" Another frowned. "Why does he keep looking at her?" Claire caught my gaze from the back. "What now?" she mouthed. I froze for a heartbeat. The plan had been to let Derek finish his triumphant moment, then rise and deliver the album. But now the slideshow was gone, and Vanessa's presence threatened to twist the narrative. If I waited too long, she might seize the stage, or Derek might walk out with her while speculation grew instead of truth. Rachel shifted in her chair, her clutch half open. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, urging me forward. Michael gave a tiny nod, his stance ready. Derek spread his arms wide, his watch glinting under the lights. "Tonight," he declared, "I want to dedicate my words to the people who believe in me." His eyes flicked toward Vanessa again, and her lips curved into a smile sharp enough to cut. The audience applauded warmly, unaware they were clapping for a lie. My pulse thundered. The slideshow was gone. Vanessa was glowing like a queen in the fourth row. Derek was thriving. If I didn't act soon, the truth might drown in applause. I placed a hand on the wedding album inside my clutch. Thin pages, glossy photos. They didn't look like weapons, but tonight they would be sharper than steel. Slowly I pushed my chair back. The sound scraped across marble, echoing louder than the applause. Heads turned toward me. Derek's voice cracked mid-sentence. His confident smile faltered as his eyes locked on mine. I rose, the album clutched tightly in my hand. The ballroom fell silent. The silence in the ballroom pressed against me like a wall as I stepped toward the stage. My heels clicked across the marble floor, steady and deliberate. Each sound was louder than applause, louder than Derek's voice, louder than the whisper that had started all of this. Derek froze at the podium. For a moment, his polished smile held, but I saw it. The twitch at the corner of his mouth, the flicker of panic in his eyes. "Haley," he said into the microphone, his tone a mix of charm and warning. "Sweetheart, what are you doing?" I didn't answer him. My gaze swept over the audience. Dozens of faces stared, waiting, confused. In the fourth row, Vanessa shifted in her seat, her crimson dress catching the light like a flame. She smirked at me, as if daring me to speak. I lifted the wedding album high, my voice calm but carrying across the room. She whispered that he was hers. I let the words hang heavy. But these pages proved the truth. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I stepped closer, opening the album slowly, deliberately. Glossy photographs glowed under the chandeliers. Me in white, Derek at my side, our hands joined, rings exchanged. "This is not hearsay," I said, my voice strong. "This is proof." He did not stand at an altar with her. He did not vow forever to her. He vowed it to me, in front of all our family, our friends, and every witness who stood that day. I walked down the aisle between tables, the album open so guests could see. Their eyes widened at the smiling faces, the vows captured in ink. Some whispered to each other. Others shook their heads. Vanessa's smirk faltered. I stopped in front of her row. The entire room seemed to lean forward. With slow precision, I extended the album and placed it into her lap. "Here," I said softly, though every ear heard it. "Look at what you will never have." Page after page of promises he made, not to you, to me. Her face blanched. She tried to shove the album back, but I pressed it firmly against her hands. The glossy pages slid open to the photo of Derek sliding a ring onto my finger. The whispers around us grew louder. "Ridiculous." Vanessa spat, her voice trembling. "This proves nothing. He loves me. He told me he was leaving you." The room erupted. Gasps, murmurs, a few outright laughs. A man at the next table shook his head. Leaving her? While vowing to her in front of all of us last month. Shameful. Derek slammed his hand against the podium. "Enough." His voice cracked through the microphone loud and raw. This is not the place for personal matters. I turned to him, calm as ice. You made it the place when you brought her into our lives. You told me I was paranoid, that I was crazy. But this, I pointed to the album in Vanessa's lap, is not paranoia. This is truth. Claire rose from the back, her laptop open. Even without the projector, she held it high, showing the nearest rows the screenshots, the receipts, the photos of Derek and Vanessa at the hotel. Rachel moved quickly, passing envelopes of printed proof along the rows. Paper whispered through hands as the audience saw what I had collected. The sound of murmurs shifted to outrage. One donor pushed back his chair. I won't back a man who lies to his wife and his supporters. Another said firmly, integrity matters. And you have none. Vanessa's hand shook as she shoved the album off her lap. It landed on the floor with a heavy thud. Pages splayed open to our kiss at the altar. The image burned under the lights. Pathetic, she muttered, grabbing her purse. You're all pathetic. She stood abruptly, her heels clattering against marble as she stormed toward the doors. Gasps followed her. Then silence as the doors slammed behind her. Derek's face was pale. His once perfect tuxedo looked stiff, his shoulders hunched. He gripped the podium like it might keep him from drowning. Amber, he began, slipping on my name, then correcting himself in panic. Haley, please, not like this. We can talk. I raised my chin, my voice clear. There is nothing left to talk about. You vowed yourself to me in front of the world. You broke those vows in shadows. And tonight I brought the shadows into the light. The ballroom was hushed, every pair of eyes locked on him. For the first time in his life, Derek had no words that could charm, no smile that could save him. The slam of the ballroom doors echoed long after Vanessa's heels clicked away. For a moment silence blanketed the room, heavy and suffocating. Derek stood alone at the podium, pale and trembling. The wedding album lay open on the marble floor, the image of our kiss at the altar glaring up at him like a verdict. Then the whispers began. They rippled through the crowd like a tide. Unbelievable. After everything she showed, how could he stand here and pretend? People leaned across tables, voices sharp with disbelief. Some shook their heads. Others stared openly at Derek, their admiration curdling into disgust. Derek gripped the podium tighter. Everyone, please, he stammered into the microphone. You're misunderstanding, this is not. His voice cracked. This is a private matter. It doesn't belong here. But the room no longer belonged to him. A man from the second row stood, his silver hair glinting under the chandeliers. He was one of Derek's oldest donors, a figure respected by all. His voice carried deep and clear. Integrity is not private, Derek. You made vows to this woman in front of us all. We celebrated with you. And now she has shown us the truth. You broke those vows and lied to every one of us. The audience erupted with nods and murmurs. Another donor, a woman in pearls, spoke firmly. You called her paranoid. Yet she stood here calm with proof in her hand. You, Derek, are the liar. Derek's lips trembled. You don't understand. Vanessa manipulated. Laughter broke out from the back, bitter and sharp. Claire raised her voice so everyone could hear. Manipulated? She admitted it herself. We all heard her. And Haley gave her the album, the vows you made. She couldn't deny it, so she ran. Gasps and shouts of agreement filled the hall. The donors were no longer neutral, they were against him. Rachel, calm and steady, began passing more envelopes down the rows. Guests flipped through the pages inside. Receipts, screenshots, photographs. Each gasp was like a hammer striking Derek's mask. By the time the last envelope reached the front row, the entire room had seen the truth laid out in black and white. One colleague whispered loudly enough for all to hear. So that's where the company dinners went. Funding his second life. Another muttered. All those late nights. We knew something was wrong. The tide had turned fully. Derek tried one last time, slamming his fist on the podium. This is slander, he shouted, but his voice shook. None of this belongs here. I stepped forward then, my chin lifted. My voice was calm, steady, and loud enough to cut through the noise. It belongs here because this is the life you tried to build on lies. You wanted the applause, the spotlight, the admiration. You wanted everyone to believe you were a man of integrity. Tonight they see the truth. And it's not me who destroyed you, Derek. It's you. The audience erupted. Not in applause but in condemnation. Some stood, gathering their coats, muttering that they would no longer support him. Others stayed seated, staring coldly at the man who only moments earlier had commanded their admiration. Derek staggered back from the podium. His tuxedo looked stiff, his hair damp with sweat. The confident man who had walked onto the stage minutes earlier was gone. In his place was someone smaller, weaker, exposed. The host of the gala, pale and shaken, hurried forward. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice trembling, "I think this is a good place to conclude tonight's program. Thank you for your support." The polite veneer cracked as guests stood in waves. Some avoided Derek entirely, others whispered as they passed. A few stopped to press my hand, their voices soft. "You were brave. You reminded us what truth looks like." One woman leaned close and whispered, "I thought I was crazy once too. Thank you for showing us none of us are." I nodded, my throat tight, but I stayed steady. I had no tears left, only strength. Claire joined me at my side, her eyes shining with pride. Rachel's hand slipped into mine, warm and solid. Evelyn typed furiously on her phone, already preparing the legal papers for the morning. Michael stayed close, his protective presence a silent shield. We walked toward the exit together. I didn't look back at Derek. I didn't need to. The sound told me everything. The murmur of disappointment, the scrape of chairs, and above it all, the silence of a man who had finally run out of lies. The morning after the gala, sunlight spilled across my bedroom floor like a spotlight. For the first time in months, I woke without dread pressing on my chest. The silence of the apartment was not heavy, it was peaceful. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Notifications lit the screen. Texts from friends, missed calls from Derek, even a dozen messages from unknown numbers. Videos of the gala had already spread. Clips of me standing with the wedding album, my voice steady, had been shared online. Strangers commented beneath the footage. She handled it with dignity. Proof always wins over lies. He called her paranoid, but she showed him the truth. I scrolled, my lips curving into a faint smile. The world had seen what Derek had tried to bury. His spotlight had turned into his executioner's torch. Claire called first. "Haley, you were extraordinary. Do you realize what you did? You didn't just free yourself. You gave every woman in that room permission to trust her instincts." Rachel arrived an hour later with coffee and pastries. She hugged me tightly, whispering, "I'm proud of you. You didn't just survive, you won." Even Michael texted, "If he shows up, call me. I'll be there in 5. His loyalty was quiet but unshakable. But Derek couldn't stay away. By noon, a knock rattled my door. I opened it a crack. There he stood, my husband, the man who had once glowed with confidence. Now his tuxedo was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, his shoulders slumped. The watch he loved to flaunt hung loose on his wrist, like even time had abandoned him. "Haley," he rasped, "please. We need to talk." I kept the door only half open. "About what?" "You destroyed me last night," he said, his voice breaking. "The donors pulled out. The company board won't answer my calls. Vanessa won't even text me back. You've taken everything." I studied him quietly. "No, Derek. You took everything from yourself. I only held up the mirror." His lips trembled. "I was weak. I was stupid. But I love you. 10 years together, you can't throw that away." I felt the words land but not sink. "You threw it away when you whispered with her at our table. When you bought her gifts in secret. When you called me paranoid instead of telling the truth. I am not what you have left, Derek. I am what you lost." His face crumpled. For a moment I thought he might argue, but then his shoulders sagged. He turned and shuffled down the hall, his steps dragging. I closed the door gently, the lock clicking like a final verdict. That evening I met Evelyn at her office. She had already drafted the divorce papers. "Your case is airtight," she told me, her tone sharp but warm. "Infidelity, financial misconduct, emotional cruelty. The court won't hesitate. You'll keep the apartment, secure restitution, and he'll walk away with nothing but his own shame." I signed my name, the pen moving smoothly, my hand steady. The letters curved across the page like a bridge into freedom. When I returned home, I brewed tea and sat by the window. Outside, children rode their bikes down the street, their laughter drifting on the breeze. A neighbor watered her garden. The world looked ordinary, and yet it felt new. The wedding album lay on the coffee table. I opened it one last time. The glossy pages no longer stung. They weren't weapons anymore. They were reminders of how far I had come. Proof not only of vows Derek had broken but also of the strength I had found in myself. I closed the book, slid it back onto the shelf and whispered to the quiet. This chapter is done. Weeks passed after the gala, and the echoes of that night slowly faded from public memory. The headlines dimmed, the whispers cooled, and the world moved on. But for me, life was just beginning again. The divorce finalized quickly. Evelyn moved with precision, and Derek, cornered by evidence and abandoned by allies, had no strength left to fight. The court awarded me the apartment, restitution for the money he had squandered on Vanessa, and peace. When the judge's gavel fell, I felt the sound reverberate not as an ending, but as a beginning. Derek vanished from my daily life. I heard rumors he lost his board seat, donors refused to return his calls, and his reputation was shredded. Some said Vanessa left the city within weeks, chasing new promises in new places. I didn't care. Their names no longer belonged in my future. My future became mine again. I painted the bedroom a soft shade of blue, erasing the memories of nights when I stared at the ceiling, waiting for him to come home. I sold the suit he wore at the gala, the one he thought would make him shine. I donated the gifts he had bought me during years of deception. Every change lightened the air in my home. I began to rebuild myself too. I joined a photography class, something I had always wanted but Derek had dismissed as a waste of time. Through the lens, I learned to see beauty again. In shadows, in light, in ordinary things. I spent weekends with Rachel and her children, their laughter filling my heart with sounds brighter than chandeliers ever could. Claire and I planned a trip to the coast, where we stood barefoot in the sand, the horizon stretching endless before us. The wedding album still sat on my shelf. Sometimes I would take it down, open its pages and let my fingers trace the photographs. But they no longer burned. They no longer felt like weapons. Instead, they were reminders of vows made, of vows broken, and of the strength it took to hold the truth in my hands when the world tried to call me paranoid. One evening, Rachel asked me softly, "Do you ever regret not walking away sooner?" I thought about it. About the whispers, the late nights, the photographs tucked into a notebook. And I shook my head. No. If I had left sooner, I would have left in doubt. But by waiting, by gathering, by showing everyone the truth, I didn't just walk away. I reclaimed my voice. And that's what I want you, the listener, to hear. If someone whispers lies in your ear, if they tell you you're imagining things, if they call you paranoid for noticing the cracks, do not doubt yourself. Gaslighting is the weapon of someone who fears the truth. Trust your instincts. Collect your proof. Stand steady. Because calm truth cuts deeper than rage ever could. The greatest revenge is not screaming. It is not begging. It is not stooping to their level. The greatest revenge is standing in the light, holding the truth, and letting them collapse under the weight of their own lies. That night at the gala, I handed Vanessa the wedding album, page after page of vows she could never claim. I exposed Derek with calm words and undeniable proof. And I walked away free. I was not paranoid. I was not crazy. I was right. And now I am whole. So if you take anything from my story, let it be this. You deserve honesty. You deserve peace. You deserve to never be silenced by someone else's lies. This was my story. And now it is finished. But your story is still being written. Trust yourself. Believe your instincts. And when the time comes, remember you hold the pen.